record button. Right, off we go. Okay, so just a few introductions first, and then we will go into the meat of the presentation. As I mentioned just then, we've got a course we're running at the end of the month, 29th of November at the Hilton Hotel in Bracknell. For those of you who don't know where Bracknell is, it's about an hour outside London on the train. It's just near Reading. Okay, so that's details of the course. I will post it up again at the end for those of you that are interested in more details of that. Okay, so a little bit about Property Mastermind Academy, or PMA as we abbreviate it to. Formed by myself and my business partner Jackie. We've been business partners now for over 23 years and in a number of different companies, and we've just really set up PMA to try and help simplify some of the topics that were out there. I think sometimes they were just overcomplicated. Training courses that were 3, 4, 5 days long for everything that could actually be done within 1 or 2 days, and that's what we've managed to achieve. So we don't just have a training company, we are investors ourselves. We have our own portfolio of cash flowing properties. We've used just about every strategy out there, and we also have a sourcing business. So you may think, well, why have we got Andrew on the call? Quite simply, he's more experienced than us. Him and his business partner Dave, who unfortunately can't be with us this evening, they've sourced more properties than us. They've been doing it longer. So simple as that. That's why they're there. And some of you will know us, myself and Jackie in particular, as property coaches and mentors. And I see some of you on the call this evening are actually on our mentorship group. So welcome to you guys. Okay. So that's enough about us, and I'll now hand you over to Andrew, who's going to cover probably the most of the rest of the presentation.
Great, thanks Mark, and a very good evening to everyone, and thank you for having me on the call, Mark. So guys, I think what's important is I've always been involved in property from a young age of 21 when I first got investing in property in South Africa and then made a bit of money. And long story short, I moved to the UK in 2005, and I lived in the UK for 8 full years. And the full 8 years I was in the UK, I was actually involved in property, where I got educated in property, went through various trainings, but I built a very successful portfolio of buy-to-lets and HMOs for myself. But before my journey began of actually investing in properties for myself, the biggest issue I had was 2 things. When I first got involved in property, I didn't have a credit file or credit history because I just moved over from South Africa. And when I moved over from South Africa, I moved over with £500, and when I invested in educating myself, I had to take out debt to pay for the education. So I was stuck in a bit of an issue where I thought, okay, fantastic, I've learned all these strategies and these tips and these tricks, and I had a mentor, and I was 25, 26 at the time. I'm talking now 2005, 2006, and somebody just said to me, well, look, Andrew, if you've got the knowledge and you've got the time, why don't you start sourcing properties and earning an income from that, and you can potentially leave your job, you could use it for raising capital. I thought, oh, okay, now at that stage I didn't know much about sourcing, and I didn't know actually anyone at the stage who was sourcing properties. But I went on a 1-day property sourcing workshop, which kind of changed my life. And the reason it changed my life is I used sourcing properties as an avenue for leaving my day job, because my background was I was a sound engineer. And I was living in Edgware, North London in 2005. I went through my education and very quickly realized, okay, well, my strategy for me in the future personally is buy-to-let, which was going to be up north in a place called Grimsby and Hull. And I started looking and I thought, okay, well, why don't I start sourcing properties and look at not quitting my job, but going from a full-time job to a part-time job into property sourcing full-time. And that's exactly what I did. And over the 8 years, from starting off sourcing properties for investors, I was able to leave my day job. I then got to a stage where I built up my credit file and credit score and could start investing in myself. When I was sourcing properties for investors, I started managing the refurbishment and letting the properties out. So I now own a business called Letsand, which is a letting agency, and a sourcing business called Investing North, and I also host a property sourcing workshop. So in 2013, I decided to move back to South Africa, but keep all my business UK-based. And the only reason I moved back, guys, is I've got 2 young kids, and I want them to live the South African lifestyle, and Granny and Grandpa are still in South Africa. But I'm still very much about property sourcing in the UK. I'm still building my portfolio in the UK, and I still travel back to the UK on a regular basis. So I think that's enough about my background and why I'm here tonight, and why I do what I do. What I want to explain to you and share with you is our business model. So Mark, if you just go to the next slide for me, I'm just going to talk about our research days, sourcing property, refurbishing, and property management. And what you'll find when you get involved in property full-time and you get into sourcing properties, depending how you do it, what you'll find is there's actually 4 very good income streams. You got your research days. Your research days are when you become the local experts in your area. You bring investors up to the area and you show them the good and bad areas. You give them a research pack, and what you're doing here is you're building a very strong, good relationship with their clients, and you're coming across as a local expert. And what you'll find as a result of that is sourcing properties to those individuals becomes very easy. So instead of having a database of 10,000 people, what you're actually really looking for is a database of 5 investors. 5 investors who have a lot of cash behind them and who are serious buyers. And as a result, those kind of buyers aren't going to want to refurbish the properties themselves. So you'll end up project managing the works for them, and depending how far you want to go, you could actually let the properties out for them. So currently what we have is what I call the Rolls-Royce model, where we offer a turnkey service. Now, don't get me wrong, guys, you don't have to do all 4 services. I've trained a lot of sourcing agents to say, look, Andrew, I'm not interested in research days or refurbs or lettings. I'm an investor and I just want to source 1 or 2 deals a month because I just want to earn an extra £3,000 or £6,000 a month. And that's completely fine. So I just wanted to share with you that you could turn this into a turnkey business and offer 1, 2, 3, or 4 services. Tonight, what we're going to focus on is we're going to focus more on sourcing the property, what you can earn for it, why you would do it, and show you some deal examples. So just write those four income avenue streams down and have a good think about it. So when you start thinking about why sourcing, it's important to think, well, you know, I'm on this webinar for a reason. I'm interested in property sourcing. Why are you interested in it? And I'll share mine. Mine was I couldn't actually invest in property myself at that stage, and I knew that if I was going to become an expert in the property game, and for me personally, I thought I need to get into property full time. So for me, it was by quitting my day job and then building seed capital. Now, I didn't just quit my day job on day 1 and go into property sourcing. I did it gradually, and it took me about 6 months, where I went from a full-time job to a part-time job into property sourcing full-time. But for some people, and I've trained quite a few guys, that the job they're in they actually enjoy, and so they use property sourcing as an additional income stream, and all the money they earn from property sourcing is purely seed capital to invest. Because if you think about it, guys, if the average sourcing fee is, say, £3,000 per property, and your strategy is to invest up north, and you come across a property for £40,000, your deposit's £10,000 on that property. You just need to source 3 to 4 deals, and you've now raised enough seed capital to put down as a deposit. And so when you look at sourcing, to me personally and from experience, it's the quickest way of raising cash. Because if you think about it, if you're investing up north and you're doing flips, and you want to earn £6,000, £10,000, £12,000 off a £40,000 property doing a flip, a buy and sell. From my experience, if you can get to the nitty-gritty of property sourcing, you can actually earn more money quicker without even owning the assets. So what I want you guys to think about tonight is, okay, why do I want to get into sourcing? Is it to raise money for deposits? Is it to get out of my day job? Is it to build seed capital? Whatever it might be. And just remember, guys, with sourcing, you can work your own hours and you can work from home. During my experience, my business partner, Dave, and myself, we actually got offices. when we were sourcing a hell of a lot of properties. And what we realized is we didn't even need the office. All you need is this, and write this down. To become a property sourcer, I need a computer, I need a phone, I need transport, and I need some marketing. That's all you need. You don't need to have fancy offices. You don't need to have a team of 10 members of staff. And you need to ask yourself the question, do I want to go out and earn £3,000 a month from sourcing, or do I want to go out there and turn it into a full-blown business? And just have a think about it. And what I'll do now is I'll share the next slide with you and just show you some basic figures of what I was earning when I first started out in property sourcing. Now, when I first shared with you that slide where I explained the Rolls-Royce model with 4 services, when you look at the first income stream being research days, we charge on average £400 per day for that service. And on average, the average property sourcing fee is around $3,250. So let's assume that you're doing 2 days a month doing research days. And bear in mind, guys, when you do these research days, you're viewing live deals on the day. And as a property investor, you're meant to be viewing live deals anyway, so you're actually getting paid for that. And assuming that you're now selling two deals a month, and as a result, when you get momentum, you'll be refurbishing 2 deals a month, earning on average £1,000 per property. Just from my experience, if you ask me what's the average of your average refurb over a period of time, to be fair, it's about £10,000, and we charge 10% of the project of the estimated refurb fee, which is £1,000. So when you look at the costs of running a sourcing business, like I said to you, you've got some travel, you've got your phone bill, and you've got some marketing. Your marketing being thing, when I first started out, I branded my car, which is very cheap. I got some boards up, which is a once-off cost, it is very cheap. I got my Goldmine ads out, and I did a lot of talking to people. And when you look at when you get momentum and you do things consistently, guys, and this is one thing that we teach on our one-day workshop, is how to do the small things in a property sourcing business consistently. You'll actually start earning, on average, £8,700 per month, and I'm speaking from experience, guys. We actually earn more, but this was conservative. And when you look at the per annum figure, it's over £100,000. Now, like I've just said to you, in terms of your second income stream here, can you see it says 6,500? So your average fee is 3,250. When you speak to guys like Mark, how much are you charging at the moment? If you're still there, Mark?
Yeah, I'm still here. Sorry, I just muted myself for a second.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
no, that's cool.
We charge anything really from 3.5 up to 5, 6, 7,000. Just depends on the deal. Some I think one deal we've charged something like 20 grand.
No, exactly, 100%. And Mark, I've just completed on a portfolio in Hull actually, where there's 2 sourcing agents involved. The sourcing fee was £9,000. We made £4,500 each. So for the purpose of this exercise, I'm working average sourcing fees of around 3,250. But when you get into it, guys, properly, and you're finding the correct deals, the more value you can offer in finding these good deals, the more you can charge as a sourcing fee. And it's something which we hone in a lot on the one-day workshop that we offer. So what I want to do is I want to share one of the properties that we've done in the last year, and it was on 10 Cromwell Road. So Mark, if you just flick to the next property. Now, in terms of where we found these deals, currently investing north, we've got about 10 or 11 ways of finding deals. However, on the one-day workshop, we cover probably around 40 to 45 different ways of getting your phone to ring. And at the end of the workshop, guys, each person will walk away with 8 to 10 ways of how they're going to get their phones to ring. So this is an example of our empty home strategy. And just write this down, guys. If you haven't done it already, just do this tomorrow. Do yourselves a favor. Call your local council and ask for your empty homes officer. Okay. Now this was an example where I still remember it. I was standing with the empty homes officer on a road called Convermore Road in Grimsby, and he told me about a problem property on Cromwell Road. And the issue with this property, guys, was that A couple got divorced. The house was empty for years and years and years. The neighbors were complaining because a tree was growing through it. It was derelict, attracting the wrong tenants. And it was a very big property, actually. It was a 4-bedroom terraced house with 3 reception rooms and a very large kitchen with a bathroom downstairs and upstairs and off-road parking. Now, when we saw this property, we thought, okay, this is quite good. Now, at the time, Dave and I had committed ourselves to a few other properties. Now, we would have liked to take it ourselves, but as a sourcing agent, guys, we can't take all the properties ourselves. We can only take so many properties ourselves, so we decided to source this on. And we actually ended up buying that specific property for £20,000. The refurb was £43,000. Now, the sourcing fee, we could charge a bit more because of the value in the property was a lot more. So we charged £4,997. The legals were £1,000, and the value of the works was £100,000. Now, that specific investor only left £4,000 in the deal. Now, when you look at the refurbishment there, guys, it was £43,000. We charged 10% of that, which is £4,300. So we made just short of £10,000 on that one specific deal. And that's the beauty about becoming a local expert and offering these services, where when you do come across a gem deal, if you can't take it yourselves, you can source on. Here's a prime example of we made just short of 10K for one deal. And you think about it, guys, if you could just find 10 deals, just 10 properties like this in a year, there's your £100,000. And what I'd just like to do quickly is just share a few photos with you. So Mark, if you just flick through the photos of this specific property, you'll see it was very, very run down. We had to put new floors in, and the property took about 3 months for us to finish. You see it's got a new bathroom, a new kitchen. And the great thing is, guys, when you see these photographs with magnolia walls, we gloss all the woodwork, we put laminate flooring in the HMOs with brown carpets in the bedrooms and the communal areas. All our properties look the same. So when a sourcing client comes to us, when they buy the first property, the second property, the third, the fourth, the fifth, we've sourced up to 15 properties, individual properties for investors. They know what kind of spec they're going to get because we buy the same kitchens, the same carpets, we paint the walls the same colors, and it's the exact same property, the exact same spec. It's called the cookie cutter system. So the one thing I want to hone in on tonight, though, guys, is to become the local expert. Now, a lot of beginners, when they start out, they say, well, look, Andrew, should I source properties locally or should I source properties nationally? My personal advice is do not go nationally yet. Yes, you can go nationally when you become more experienced. So in the likes of, say, Mark, and Mark for yourself, you're a very experienced investor. You've invested nationally yourself. You've connected with nationally sourcing agents, and you're having lots of success, aren't you, Mark?
Yeah, I mean that's generally the way we operate now. We've got a lot of connections with other sourcing agents, so we have deals that come in from all over the country.
Exactly. So what I would say is, when you first start out, though, stick to one area and find an area that's going to suit your strategy and an area that you feel comfortable investing in. It doesn't have to be the area you live in. It can be an area far away. I've got a couple of guys living in Essex, and they're investing and sourcing in Hull, so I know it can work. So my advice is, whether you're on this course for a property sourcing workshop, but when it comes to your own strategy, find an area that works for your strategy and bolt the sourcing onto that. But become the local expert. Know the demographics of the area. Who are the major employers, the local developments? Know what the average property price is, and know what the rental demand is in the different areas in that area. Because once you've got all the information, what you can do is you can put a research document together. Because when you have your research days, what you'll do on that research day is you'll give them what's called the research document. And the whole point of your research day is to fast track their research into one day. Because as you guys know, let's assume that all you guys are living in London right now, and you all want to invest in Grimsby or Hull. The amount of time it's going to take you to learn what I know in Grimsby is going to take you 6 months, maybe a year, in terms of the local knowledge. There's one thing doing research on the internet and research with the local council, but it's another thing actually getting that local knowledge. And so what I can't stress it enough, if you take one thing away from tonight, is I want you to find one area, become the local expert, and start doing research in that area to know those are the streets I don't buy in, and those are the streets I do buy in. But those are the streets that work for HMOs, and these are the areas and streets that work for buy-to-let. And start putting together a research document. Now, on the one-day workshop, we'll actually share with you how we put our research document together and how it should look. And then also, find a niche, have a niche in that area. So if you're choosing, say, Grimsby, or you're choosing Sunderland, or you're choosing Liverpool, is there anything in that area that sticks out? Because it might be that your local government stroke council stroke charities offers social housing, which is your guaranteed rents. It might be they offer a government grant for refurbishments where you get a 10 or a 15 or 20,000 pound interest-free loan for 5 years. And so when you find that area, I want you guys to know all the ins and outs. What does the local government offer? What does the local council offer? What does are there any charities that are doing social housing? Do HMOs work in your area? And once you find out all that information, guys, it makes a huge difference when you're running your research days, because what it does is it gives you credibility as well. And Mark, when you go to the next slide, I'll just share something with you with regards to local knowledge. This is a small little map of Grimsby, and if you just bring up the next little piece there, Mark, you'll see where it says A. There's a little pink bubble. It says A, and it's got there Fairmont Road, Columbia Road, Cooper Road, and Durban Road. There's 4 roads there, right? Now, see where it's got that park, and it says Grant Thorold Park. And just north of it, it says Wellington Street, the yellow line, and north of it, it says Castle Harold Tunard. Now, and it's sad, but I've seen this happen so many times. In that area above Wellington Street, north of Wellington Street, for a 3-bed house, 2 reception rooms, very good condition, nothing wrong with the house, houses will value to £50,000 average. South of Wellington Street, as you hit Robert Street and you go around that park, and you start hitting Durban Road, Cooper Road, Fairmont Road, property prices, now you're talking from 65 up to 85. As the closer you go to Cooper, Fairmont, Columbia, so property prices go up. Now, in terms of distance, guys, the distance there is so short. And the problem is amateurs will look at a property not knowing that that's good and bad areas. They'll look at Rutland Street, look for comparables on Rightmove, and say, show me comparables within a quarter of a mile, and go, oh yeah, but I can see property sold in Durban and Cooper for 65, 70, 75. So I'm sure Rutland Street is going to value up to that. And this is where it comes back down to the previous slide, which was become the local expert, guys. There's so many towns I've personally experienced where you look at the numbers with the estate agent, or the seller goes, yeah, only 130, 40, and it sounds like the best deal in the world, but you're actually buying a property in Beirut. And it's actually a bad investment, but on paper it looks like a very strong yield. So just keep that in mind, guys. And this is where what I found, a lot of people appreciate that, and a lot of investors actually acknowledge that, to go, do you know what, Andrew, I'm going to pay you a very high sourcing fee, because I'd rather pay a high sourcing fee to a local expert knowing that you're not going to source my property in a bad area. And on the left, you can see comparables. Where we get our comparables from is Rightmove, it's Zoopla, Mouse Price. You get all the information that you need there. Now, in terms of finding the deals, like I shared with you before, one of the avenues was our empty home strategy. But some of the other strategies I've run now, and it's no jokes, guys, since end of 2005, I've been doing Goldmine advertising in Grimsby for 2005. That's 9 years now. And I will always have it in there, and I'll never take it out. The problem with marketing and a lot of investors is this, is they place adverts in various forms, and they don't get a response within a few days, a few weeks, a few months, and they stop it, they quit. The key to successful marketing when looking when finding deals is to be consistent with your marketing. If your marketing isn't working like your Goldmine advertising, and what I mean by Goldmine advertising, for those of you that aren't aware, what I'm referring to is placing a very basic advert that says, we buy houses, any condition, any condition, quick completion, hassle-free, call Andrew, call Dave, and we'll leave a phone number. Very 3 or 4 lines, hassle-free, and we just place the advert, and we place it for you, and we leave it there. If we get no response from the advert, all we do is we change the wordings. What we then do is we look at our landlord, our local landlords, and what we'll do is attend our local landlord property association, where we network local landlords, and we'll probably pick up 1 deal a month or 1 deal every 2 months from our local landlords. And then one thing that's worked very well for us is our empty homes list. So as we're driving around our towns like Hull or Grimsby, Scunthorpe or Doncaster, we have a little black book, and we call it our empty homes book. And every time we spot an empty homes property, we stop the car and we write the address down. We then go home and we download the title register for that. You just go to landregistry.gov.uk, and it costs you £4, I think it's £3 now. You download the registry, and it gives you the details of the homeowner. And what you then do is you write a personalized letter to the homeowner. Now, yes, sometimes that letter will be addressed to the property that you wrote down, and in that case, you've lost £3 or £4, so what? But it's a numbers game. You need to keep finding empty houses. Yes, you can knock on the neighbors' doors, of course you can, and if you do and you don't get information, run the strategy. Now, if you're lucky, and it is very difficult, but it is possible, if you're lucky, you will actually get the empty homes list from your local council. So when you call your local council, ask for your empty homes officer, build a relationship, let them know what you're doing, and then try and get your hands on a list of empty houses. They won't give you details of people's names for data protection, but some councils, not all, will actually give you the list. We got the list for about 7 or 8 years in a row. And what is the empty home? An empty home is a house where council tax hasn't been registered for more than 6 months or paid for 6 months. So keep that in mind, guys. And the reason I stress on it is just because from a personal point of view, I've done a lot of property sourcing deals through that route. And then you got your HMO list, which is public information. Call your local council, ask for the HMO officer, and ask them for a list of the HMO owners. They have to give you the list, and there's nothing wrong with you writing to the homeowners of these HMOs and saying, hi, my name is Joe Bloggs, I'm a local investor, I'm looking to invest in either a HMO or a buy-to-let. I see that you're a local, or I see that you own a HMO in this area. Are you open to selling a property, or do you know of someone that is looking at selling a property? And ask them the question. My point here, guys, is that you need to be sending letters out, text messages, emails, and phone calls, because with consistent marketing, you will be successful and phone calls will start coming in. Then you got your for sale by owner board. So as you're driving around and you're noting empty homes, look for your for sale boards. Now, I'll be honest, I haven't had a lot of success with it, but I have done quite a few deals. It doesn't cost you anything to stop and make a phone call or knock on the door to say, look, I can see you marketing the property by yourself. You know, I'm a local investor. I'm looking at doing a property. I'm looking at buying property just like yours. Are you open to selling? Then you've got internet leads. Again, I've had some success with internet leads, not a hell of a lot, but I've still had success from it. And then I've got leaflets. I can actually say that my biggest success and the most amount of money I've ever made from individual residential properties are internet leads, where I'm not internet leads, leaflet leads, where I've done leafleting, and as a result, I've done deals and I've made good money. As in, off a deal, I think the biggest deal I made from a sourcing fee was £25,000 because I bought it because we got it at such a good B&B amount. And the point here, guys, is, and I can't share all of it with you tonight because I'll be here all night. But on the workshop, I spend a lot of time going through. Well, you know, step number one, guys, is we need to find these deals. And once we go through all the different avenues, and on an individual basis, we'll go through what's going to suit you. You'll go, okay, that's fine, Andrew. Let's go with these 8. And as you can see there, guys, if you had to choose 8 avenues or 8 ways of finding deals, all you need really to be successful is one deal every 2 to 3 months per advertising mean. So for example, the Goldmine advertising, all we need is to do one deal every 2 to 3 months. Local landlords, all we need is 1 to 2 every 3 months. And the same with every other avenue. So the more irons in the fire we have, the more opportunity we have to actually do deals. The problem with amateurs is they go to estate agents and they go to auctions, and that's all they do. And because they don't get many deals, they get desperate and they start paying higher prices for deals. And so just for this section, I can from personal experience and recommendations, just coming on our sourcing workshop, just for that specific section will make it all worth it. And just to share with you how one of our leaflets looks on the next slide, there's different kind of leaflets that we do use. Now, like I said to you before, I've done some very successful deals with leaflets, and the truth is, guys, I've done success of, your colorful leaflets like this, selling your home sold, and you can have everything on the chain free, best price, quick sale, and you can have a very sexy looking flyer. But at the same time, the deal I actually told you about, where we made £25,000 off, was actually off a very, very basic black and white flyer, almost like an embarrassing flyer where it looks cheap. But my experience has been, when you get the timing right and you're consistent with your leaflets, someone might say no, 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 but the circumstances change, and they don't care if it's a sexy looking flyer. They don't care if it's colored black and white. If you get that leaflet into their hands at the right time, and they go, yes, I do want to sell, and the leaflet you say you buy houses, they will give you a call. So just remember that, guys. Don't get too caught up on how the leaflet should look. It's actually all about timing. It's about going, that individual that day going, I really need to sell my house, and all of a sudden they get a leaflet coming through the door. And it's simple with leaflets, guys. If you haven't done it before, you will waste your money if you do a leaflet drop and you stop doing leaflets. You need to do leaflets on a regular basis. Otherwise, don't even bother doing it. You're wasting your money. You're wasting your time. You need to leaflet the same house at least 7 times or 8 times, even 9 times. You've got to be consistent, and you've got to be in their face with that. And then in terms of our sample Goldmine ad, which is on the next slide, which is what I shared with you before, for those of you that aren't aware of how it should look, we kind of alter the wording, but it's basically saying I buy houses, or I can say we buy houses, any condition, any area, call Rachel, your local property buyer. Now, we use the same wording, and we use the same concept for things like branding our cars, the back of our car, postcards in local shops. So if you imagine, guys, you've got boards which are out at your refurbishments, or if you're starting out at letting agency properties, you've got an advert in the local paper, your car's branded, you've got postcards up, you've got internet leads, wherever sellers are looking, whether it's internet-based, driving in their car, going to the local shop, they need to be seeing your advert saying, I buy houses, we buy houses, I buy houses, we buy houses. And I can tell you from experience, your phone will start ringing very, very often. And from experience, keep it simple. I personally have never gone, especially with Goldmine ads, I haven't gone in color. I try to keep it to 3 lines, 4 lines max, just short and punchy. Keep your costs low with this, but keep it consistent. Because I think what the issue is with quite a few people is that they go expensive with their Goldmine ads, and they go colors, and they go 10 lines or 12 lines. It costs them £500-600 a month. They only get one call in 3 or 4 months, and they say, well, it doesn't work. I can't justify the cost. We pay about £120 a month, £130 a month, and the message is simple. And that's all you're going to remember, guys, with your marketing. Keep your message simple. And what I'm going to do on the next slide is just share another property that we did. Now, this was actually a lease option that we did, which was directed to the vendor. Now, if you remember a few minutes ago, I shared with you that we also do boards that say we buy houses. Now, where this photograph was taken, which is directly across the road from the house you're looking at there, was a house that we had just sourced and were busy refurbing. And we had a board, it's a blue board, it just says we buy houses. And we got a call from the lady, and the lady called and said, look, I'm looking at selling my house. Now, okay, great, fantastic, went to go view it. It needed, I think, from memory, $2,000 or $3,000 spent on it. And we found out that, yeah, after, the properties down there are worth about $65K if in decent condition. The problem is, she owed £58,000 on it. So I was like, oh no, because I'm very much into buying B&B, even though I've done a few lease options, and I thought, kind of walked away actually, to be fair, in the beginning, and she kept coming back, and we ended up doing a lease option with the property. Now, it's a 3-bed house with 2 reception rooms. And she was very distressed, and the reason she was distressed was because she used to live in that house. However, she met her boyfriend who was from Wolverhampton, and they moved to Wolverhampton. And she rented out to her niece and her nephew or something like that, and they didn't pay rent, they didn't look after the house, and she didn't want the hassle of the property at all, but she could not sell the property. So we took it in for a lease. And again, we weren't in a position to take it ourselves. We didn't want to take it ourselves at that stage in our property career. So we decided to source it on. And when you look at the next slide and you look at the figures on it, the sourcing fee isn't as healthy as the first deal I showed you. The first deal sourcing fee was $5,000. This is a $2,000 sourcing fee. But for the client, all she had to pay was a $2,000 sourcing fee, a $2,000 refurb, and a £1,000 legal. So this deal was costing her £5,000, which she had in her own cash. Obviously, no mortgage was required, and she was making a rental income of $425, and her actual cash flow was just over £100. From memory, I think it was something like £120 or £140, something like that. And the point of showing in the slide, guys, is when you get into sourcing, one thing I've learned is there is a buyer for every single property. I do not care what that property is and how bad the road is, how good the road is, the condition of the house, if there's two years left on the lease. Because we've now done close to 400 property sales, as you can imagine, we've dealt with a lot of experiences. And what we found is, and most people listening on this webinar, I'll make the assumption, have been trained by PMA, Simon Zucci, Mark and Robert Progressive, or one of the big training organizations. But what I found in my sourcing career, guys, is I've come across a lot of investors who are not interested in discounts, who just want to sink money into a property, or they have been trained but they can't get mortgages, so they're forced to do deals like this. And I can probably say that I've successfully managed to source on the majority, as in being 95 to 97% of deals that hit our table, because when you get into sourcing and you get your name known out there, it might take you a few months, 6 months, even a year, but you'll get to a stage, guys, that when every property you view, you obviously start with your B&B, 30% B&B, 25% B&B, but you'll get to a point where, okay, well, the seller can only take 10% B&B and they want to sell. Now, your average investor will go, oh, it doesn't work, it's not a good deal, and they'll leave the table and they'll walk away. As a professional sourcing agent, and this is something which we teach on our one-day workshop, is where do we find these clients that will pay 5%, that'll take a deal that's only got a 5% discount or a 10% discount? How do you package those deals up? So I can tell you guys, there's a lot of value in those kind of deals. And what makes and just remember this, because a lot of beginner sourcing agents get this wrong. What a bad deal to me is doesn't mean it's a bad deal for the person next to me. It could be a good deal for them and vice versa. A good deal to me might be a bad deal to you. So never judge the deal as it's a good deal or a bad deal. Look at the property and just remember there's a buyer for that property. Your job as a sourcing agent is to go, where am I going to find that buyer? So if that deal doesn't suit you, don't just think, okay, well, it doesn't suit me, I'm going to leave it alone. It might be that you pass it on to a local estate agent and you get a fee from the commission. So if you just go to to the next slide, Mark, I'm going to share another deal. Now, this deal was actually through an estate agent, and this was a 3-bed terrace with 2 reception rooms. And the situation behind this one, guys, is that the couple were getting divorced, and the actual market value of the property was £60,000, and the property needed a £4,000 refurbishment. Now, they were asking 50K for the specific property, and we managed to pick it up for £40,000. And as you can see there, we charge a sourcing fee of $2,997. So if we just flick to the next slide then, Mark, and you'll see what I'm talking about, with the legals being $1,600. This to me is what you call an average deal. So the investor paid £40,000. He got a mortgage, so he put £10,000 down. He gave us a £3,000 sourcing fee with the refurb of $4,000. So we earned a £400 project management fee, so we actually earned £3,400 off the deal, and his cash flow was £152. Now, this is a bog standard property through a local estate agent, and what I find is a lot of, I say a lot, I've heard a lot of noise and people talking about estate agents saying, oh, we don't buy through there, we can't get good deals through there. Now, when you look at the bigger picture, guys, estate agents are in the game of selling properties. Property investors are in the game of buying properties, the same as sourcing agents. It's actually, for us, it's been a very good platform of finding properties. Yes, if you are dealing directly with a vendor, yes, it's easier to negotiate. But when it comes to dealing with estate agents, providing you've got your database up to date all the time and you're visiting estate agents on a consistent basis, that's where your success comes from, because our success doesn't come from a deal coming on the market initially and earning and getting a deal. Because when properties come on the market initially, what tends to happen is sellers want the highest price for that property. Where we get our success from estate agents is staying in touch with the estate agents and tracking deals that had a buy, but the sale fell through and the buyer couldn't proceed anymore, and they find another buyer, and that sale fell through. And then because you're in the estate agent's face all the time, the estate agents come back to you, and that's where we pick it up. So just remember, with the estate agent, guys, don't just get excited about estate agents calling you initially when properties come in the market. That's fine, that's good. But what you need to do is put your cheeky offers in and track those deals on a weekly / monthly basis. And what you'll find, guys, is when you get into the property sourcing game, like I said to you before, I've got clients that I've sourced up to 15 individual properties. What you're looking for are fans and not clients. Now, this is an example of Leslie Green, and this was a couple of weeks ago, actually, where what I did is I've got a good relationship with Leslie Green, and she's bought quite a few properties from us. And what I did, guys, as a tip, I sent Leslie Green a nice bottle of champagne. And if you guys go into Moonpig, and it's a website where it's like corporate gifts and stuff, and I sent her a nice bottle of champagne, just saying, dear Leslie, thank you for your business. We really appreciate it, which we do appreciate it. Love Andrew and Dave. And we gave it to Leslie, and what you'll find, guys, is you just need to give good deals away, and you need to treat your customers with respect, and you need to give them a good service. And as a result, from a sourcing point of view, is you start getting these good remarks on Facebook, and what do you think happens? Referrals start to happen. And from a sourcing point of view, now, you'll start finding yourself in a position where with the correct marketing in place, you start picking up good deals for yourself, but you're also able to source good deals onto your clients. And that's something which we talk a lot about in our one-day workshop is, it's one thing finding good deals, but also it's another thing finding the right kind of clients and having a different array of clients. As it's fine to have your PMA clients, your Tiger clients, your Simon Zicci, your marketing of course it is, and they're fantastic clients. But actually, it's good to have a mix of non-trained clients who are happy to pay market value for properties or take properties with a 5 or 10% discount, because all they're looking to do is to sink money into property, but they're happy to pay you a fee for your time. And I found to have a mix of those kind of clients is very, very powerful. And so just, I just want you guys to take home from tonight, from a sourcing point of view, do I want to do this? and run the Rolls-Royce model where I do all 3 to 4 services, or do I just want to do one or two properties a month and earning an extra $3,000 a month or an extra $6,000 a month, and just take it from there. Now, like we said to you, it's what 10 to 9 now. We don't want to overrun. So I think what will be useful, Mark, is if some guys can throw a few questions at you and I, and see if we can answer them.
Yeah, okay, Andrew. Just going to pull up the questions, see what we've got coming through.
Okay, no worries.
Yeah. Okay, so well, one of the questions again, I think it's just repeating some of the stuff you said earlier, is how do I get started when I've got very little money?
Okay, so how do I get started if I've got very little money? Okay, like I said to you, my first question back to you would be, okay, well, do you have internet access? Do you have a phone? And would you be able to, allocate 100 or 200 pounds a month to your property sourcing business? What I found, I've trained a few guys who have been in that position, and what I did with them is I got themselves to connect themselves with other sourcing agents. So I said, look, what you need to do is you need to get out there doing some networking. Now, yes, it's going to cost you £20 on average per networking event, but if you can start building a database of hungry investors, finding out where they want to invest and what they want to invest in, start going into social media and connecting yourself with other sourcing agents, building a relationship to get stock off them, that will then allow you for them. What you'll find is that specific sourcing agents will give you exclusivity of some of the deals that you can take and sell to your database. So yes, it might be that if you're charging £3,000 as an example, yes, you have to split that 1,500 and 1,500, but that's okay because they've done all the work and they've spent all the money marketing for the deal, and you've brought a buyer to the table. So there are different ways of getting into the sourcing game without much money. And like I said to you, you don't have to have fancy offices with staff or anything like that. You need to be able to access Rightmove, Zoopla, a phone bill, have some form of transport. Things like your postcards can be printed at home. Your We Buy Houses boards, that cost £20 per board. So what you'll find on the workshop, guys, is just to come on that one-day workshop, you'll be blown away by the amounts of ways of how we market, A, for free, or B, for a very small amount. And the thing which I love about sourcing is the return on your time invested and your money invested in getting that deal is probably better than, well, it is better than all the business I've ever been involved with, because I've got a letting agency and other businesses in South Africa, and the amount of time and money I spent in those versus property sourcing is just crazy. I don't know if you have anything to say on that, Mark?
No, that's fine, mate. There's quite a few questions popping up, so we'll try and get through a few of them if we can.
Okay.
This one's, I think, quite a common one. This one's from Cash. He just basically says, for someone in a full-time job, what do you think is the best way to start sourcing properties for themselves and other investors?
Okay, cool. So if you're in a full-time job, I think it depends on how demanding that job is. I know when I first started out, I was a sound engineer, and my job was demanding, but I could still take some calls. But what I actually did was I found an area where I was going to invest for myself, which was Grimsby at that stage, whilst I was living in London. I then started placing all the private marketing, like the Goldmine ads, the postcards, which I did on Saturdays. And I actually employed a PA company, which they charged me £1 per call. Now, it wasn't like I was getting 100 calls a day. I was getting a few calls a day, so it was only costing me 20, 30 quid a month. But what was great is I could still do my job, and I had a virtual PA just answering phone calls for me. So in my lunch breaks and in the evenings, I could call those people back, and what I'll then do is arrange to do the viewings on a Saturday, which wasn't ideal if I got the call on a Monday or a Tuesday, because I'd have to wait till Saturday, but that's how I had to do it. So if you're limited to time, I always say to people, okay, what you need to do is two things. Either team up with somebody that is time rich, and go into some form of partnership where if you don't have much time, but you do have a little, a few £100 a month, why don't you sponsor the adverts and sponsor them, pay for the marketing, but get somebody else to do all the running around, or delegate some of the work out, like I just said, get a virtual PM board, get them to answer the phone calls, and you call them back in your time, which are your breaks or in the evenings, and then find time to do the viewings on those deals. So yes, of course it's possible. I did it, my business partner Dave did it. We've been mentoring and coaching a few other sourcing agents that are full-time jobs. Most people, to be fair, do start out in full-time jobs, and they end up going full-time into property as a result of property sourcing. It's just knowing what to delegate and how to delegate. And again, are you sourcing in the area where you work in, or are you sourcing in the area 3 hours away?
Okay, excellent, mate. Couple of questions from Tonya. So one of them is, one is about lease options. Does she have to wait? She's doing a course in March, apparently. Does she have to wait until then before she can start the sourcing? And the second part of the question is, she's just starting out. Does she need to be an experienced investor before she can start sourcing?
The answer is no. You can start, well, you could start any time you wanted. My advice, though, is when it comes to sourcing, as long as you've got some form of education behind you, or some form of coach or a mentor behind you. So like anything, you don't know what you don't know. So if you're going to get into sourcing, there's quite a few things involved, like knowing how to secure the deal, getting your option agreement signed, having the right power team in place, and having a good deal chaser in place. So my advice is invest in yourself, come on the one-day workshop to find out what you don't know. So if you're doing the lease option course next year, that's fine. If you're starting out in property, that's fine. But if you do want to get into property sourcing and earn a fee from it, if you want to start earning money from it, you'll need to invest in yourself and come on something like the one-day workshop. At least from the one-day workshop, it will give you all the documentation you need. It will give you the connections you need. It will give you the process of what to do, which is your step 1 is, the step 2 is that, step 3 and that. And I think I'd be more confident to say, yes, you can do it after you've been in the one-day workshop. If you don't come in the one-day workshop and you try to do it by yourself without being educated on the one-day workshop, yeah, it might be a bit difficult.
Yeah, I think I'd agree there. We are actually aiming to run a lease options workshop at the end of January, Tonya, as well. So if that helps, then you can drop me an email. Question from Irene. So in regard to sourcing a deal at the property, so does the buyer buy the property, pay you for the refurb, and then do they organise the remortgage and tenanting? Simply how much work do you do in sourcing?
That's totally up to you guys. Remember I explained the four income streams. So I've got some clients, and I'll give you 2 different types of clients. They'll say, look, Andrew, and they'll say to you on the research at the beginning, I'll do the research day, but I don't want to get too involved with sourcing the property, managing the refurb, or letting it. Yes, there's some form of involvement where they've got to sign paperwork and put money on the table, but they don't want the hassle of it. Therefore, we take care of it all as a sourcing agent. Or if you're a sourcing agent that doesn't want to get involved in project management or lettings, that's completely fine. It's about setting expectations. So when you meet with potential clients in the beginning, what you're saying is, I'm a property sourcing agent. I help investors grow their portfolio, and what I do is once I've sourced the property, what I can do for you as an additional service is I'll pass the property on to a reputable builder, and I'm going to introduce you to a local letting agent. And what you're doing there is you're basically saying, look, I'm going to source the property for you, but I don't do anything else other than introductions. So that it depends how far you want to go. For us, we do the full thing. So we say, look, if you wish, we'll source it, we'll then refurbish it for you, and we'll let it out, for the full service. So all you need to do is set the expectation with your clients in the beginning.
Excellent. Okay, I think we've probably got just time for one more, maybe. or couple maybe, fairly simple one. So, sorry, Zhao Ming, I think it is. I can't. I hope I pronounced your name correctly there. She's asking, who do you get the empty homes list from? Does the council have to give it to you?
Okay, empty homes list, generally speaking, comes from what's called the empty homes officer. So we used to have very good success with getting the empty homes list from the Grimsby Town Council, and some people still have success getting it, and some people struggle. Now, a lot of councils don't want to give it up because they're worried about break-ins, and if they don't know you from a bar of soap, they're worried about giving you a list of empty homes because they're worried about people breaking into properties and things like that. But speaking to a lot of other investors, once they've built a relationship and the council can see that what they're doing is a good thing, they have actually released the empty homes list. So my experience has been positive, and the answer is no, they don't have to give you the list. They don't have to give it to you, and you can fight and fight and they won't give it to you. My advice is try to build a strong relationship with the right person, and keep nagging for it, and you might get it. We got it for about, I think it's about 7 or 8 years, and they just kept giving it to us and giving it to us. I think just because we were in business with the right person. However, with the HMO list, that's public data and they have to give it to you. So there's a difference there, guys, the empty homes list versus the HMO list.
And one last one from Ben. How are the buyers, those with the cash to purchase the properties, being sourced? Are these typically individual investors or fund managers?
From experience, individual investors, I don't think I've ever had any fund managers buying from us. Most of our investors are individuals who come to us saying, look, Andrew, we want to source properties. We're looking for 1 buy-to-let or 20 buy-to-lets, or we're looking for a portfolio, and they come to us and they just buy 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way up to 15, 20. I guess there are sourcing agents that do deal on a much bigger scale. They deal with fund managers that buy massive portfolios. But what you'll find is when you get going and you start doing your research days and you start doing networking at the various networking events, when you first start out, it's going to be individuals like you, like Mark, like myself, going, look, I want another buy-to-let, I want a HMO, but I don't have the time or I don't have the confidence, and you'll source for them on an individual basis.
Okay, brilliant. All right. I think that's enough on the questions. I'm conscious of the time. We did say it'd last about an hour. So I just really want to show you a few things from what people have attended our course. Some of the delegates have said. John, who's a guy on the South Coast, he came to the Deal Sourcing Masterclass. As he says there, excellent content, brilliant presented. No one will have any excuse not to take action after taking this masterclass. Chris Edwards had an excellent day at the Deal Sourcing Masterclass, learnt loads, came away very motivated. I've been up since early this morning, already taking action. I think that's the key thing, is guys. It's if you do want to come along the course, you've got to take action afterwards. And many of you may know Neil from, he's quite active on some of the forums. Neil attended our Deal Sourcing Masterclass, and as he says, 10 out of 10, absolutely fantastic. And we know he's recommended it to a few people. So this is what you get on the Deal Sourcing Masterclass. Do you want to cover through that, Andrew, or are you happy for me to?
Yeah, no, I can do it. So like on the day, guys, what we do is we cover 2 things. What actually makes a professional sourcing business, which is the full Rolls-Royce model, as well as if you're an individual investor and you just want to do 1 deal a month or 2 deals a month. And one thing we spend a lot of time is how to market for these great deals and how to become the local expert. And when you see the lead management and negotiation, what you find where a lot of amateur investors go wrong is they don't manage their database. So we make sure that when you walk away from the day, you know how to manage the leads, you know how to follow up, because that's where your success will come from. And we also do quite a few exercises on negotiation. What we find is lots of newbies, guys starting out, don't have the confidence or don't know the basics of negotiation. So we help you and we show you what to say. We do some exercises with you which gives you the confidence. And then something which is very important, guys, is securing the deals. If it's a private seller, if it's an estate agent, and we cover that. How do we secure the deals so they're your deals, as well as how we source clients like I said to you before, it's not just 25% BMV clients. We're looking for clients that will take the properties if it's a full market value or even 10% below market value. And then we'll go through property sourcing contracts. So when you find a deal and you find a buyer and you put them together, what should the contract look like and what should be in the contract? As well as getting paid. Do we get paid on exchange and on completion? How much do we take up front? When do we get paid the rest? And then one of the most important things I would say, and a lot of value, is the lifetime support via the private Facebook group. This is where after the event, after the one-day workshop, it's an elite Facebook group just for property sourcing agents. Just that alone is worth quadruple what you're paying for the course. Why? Because you get connected with a whole bunch of other property sourcing agents across the country.
Exactly. I think the support on the Facebook group is key, really, and there's an awful lot to cover on the day, as you well know, Andrew. We finish well,
Yeah.
I think 6-ish, half 6 at the worst case, I think, and it's just so much.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got that group afterwards to help you. So I'll just bring up details of the course again. What I have done is it is only on the 29th of November, so it's not that far away now. Listening to the webinar tonight, if you are interested, we've done a special offer on the webinar, so you get an extra £50 off if you're interested in booking, but you need to book by midnight this Friday. That offer price will only stay till then. That's the place you go to, pmacourses.co.uk/deal sourcing. You won't see the offer price on the website until you go through to book, and it's on the drop-down menu. Okay, so you need to go through to the actual bookings button, and it will be on the drop-down menu from there. So hopefully we'll see some of you on there. We have got a few tickets left, but not that many. So we keep the numbers on the course quite low, so that we can give you the individual attention to make sure you know what you're doing and can go out and do this the day after if that's what you want to do. And some of the attendees on our courses have actually done that. They've been so excited, but at the end of the day, they've got up the following morning and actually started to do something. And that's the kind of thing we want to instill in all of you that come on the course. If you don't want to come along, then great. Hope you've picked up a few things this evening, a few tips, some ideas, and hopefully maybe giving you some inspiration as to what you could achieve if you really want to progress with this particular strategy. Either way, wish you luck with the investing.
Yeah, definitely.
And want to thank you for your time.
Yeah. No, definitely, Mark. And I was just going to say, when you look at the price there, Mark, of 397 plus VAT, I wouldn't even, when you think of property sourcing and the earning potential of the property sourcing, even just on the research days, Mark, by doing 1 or 2 research days, learning how to do a research day, and you're getting paid for doing viewings, by the way, it's paid for the training. And if you look at the sourcing point of view, by doing one sourcing deal, guys, and earning £3,000, it actually makes the course look very cheap in terms of what we charge. And the feedback we get every single time is A, why don't we charge more for the courses? And B, I'm so glad I came. I didn't realize that we're going to learn so much. So for those of you that do want to get into property sourcing, whether it's 1 deal a month, 1 deal every 2 months, or you want to learn how to do the Rolls-Royce model, don't even hesitate, guys. Just don't book tomorrow. Book tonight. Email Mark. Come on the course, because the seats are limited, and trust me, you will not regret it.
Brilliant. Thanks, Andrew. And just to reiterate, it's everything you need on the course and more, from finding the deals, finding the investors, putting it all together, so package it up and sell the deal on if that's what you want to do. So everything's covered.
Definitely.
Yep, just once again, thanks for your attention this evening, and we've run a little bit over, apologies about that, but it is roughly about an hour since we started, and yeah, enjoy the rest of the evening. Thanks very much.
Great. Cheers, guys. Good night.
Cheers. Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks. Cool. Cheers, guys. Bye. Bye.